This is a quick video for any of you unaware of such changes, but Dragon Ball Z, when it first aired in the UK, Canada and a few other areas around Europe, had a different dub to those of you in most parts of America. Interestingly, in the dub that we received, there were some changes to move and characters' names from the Funimation dub, and that as the internet became more utilised, we began to become aware of these overseas differences, forcing us to become used to the Funimation terminology. It is very interesting for any kind of fan of Dragon Ball Z, no matter which dub you prefer, whether it be the original Japanese, Funimation, Ocean, Malaysian, AB Group, or any other you might have found, because nearly all of us have grown used to certain terminology. And a lot of avid fans and believers of the thing that they watched as they grew up is the best way to watch it. And some even believe that everything else is terrible. During the messy course of Dragon Ball Z's famous dubbing run, we were all originally introduced to the Saban dub of Dragon Ball Z, where we had the likes of Scott McNeil's Piccolo, Ian Corlett and Peter Kalamis' Goku, and of course Brian Drummond's Vegeta, whose voice coins the famous Over 9000 line. Several of these voices you'll actually recognise if you watch famous dubs of Death Note, Gundam Wing and other anime that were largely popular around the early 2000s. But as we approached the Ginyu Force battle, the voices suddenly changed and we were introduced to the Funimation dub. Later on in Canada and UK, once again the voices would soon change, and at the end of the Freezer arc the voices would then return to our original voice cast from the Ocean dub, or the Saban dub, where Brian Drummond reprised his role as Vegeta and we were lucky enough to have Peter Kalamis as Goku again for a while. The interesting thing with these dubs is, and I remember as a child noticing the changes in the tone and sounds of the voices, noticeably enough that it would actually distort my interest in some of the characters at times, but the change in the voices wasn't the only jarring thing. Of course, in any dub there's always changes to the script, but in the Ocean dub scripts there were changes to the move names and character names that might actually surprise you. For any unknown reason they were changed, possibly just localizations. For instance, Pikkon was pronounced Pecan, like pecan pie. Dr. Jaro was pronounced Dr. Jaro, Videl was pronounced Videl, Maron was pronounced Maron, rather than the relaxed Maron you hear in Funimation's dub. The instantaneous movement, or the instant transmission as it's called in the Funimation dub, was called the instant translocation, which of course makes very little sense. Special Beam Cannon was called the Special Beam of Terror. Now that was something that was interesting because originally in the Saban dub and the Ocean dub at the beginning fight with Raditz, it isn't called the Special Beam of Terror. But later on in the Cell Saga it was referred to as the Special Beam of Terror, and then later on Piccolo would use it and call it the Special Beam of Terror himself. It's just inconsistent. And speaking of inconsistent, the regular usage of the term Kamehameha was replaced by Kamehameha, and sometimes they would just scream Kamehameha and fire off a Kamehameha. So it was really interesting because sometimes they would draw it out and draw attention to the fact they were calling it a Kamehameha, and other times they would just draw a lot of attention to the fact they called it a Kamehameha. It was inconsistent, as I say. The Garlic Cannon, or the Garlic Gun, was sometimes referred to as the Gallic Gun. This was used mostly in flashbacks and things to the original Vegeta fight with Goku, where they were firing off that beam clash. Sometimes, just depending on where you were, whether it be the Blue Water dub or the Ocean dub, you'd hear it called the Gallic Gun. And of course one that most people are familiar with, and actually people that still watch the Funimation dub still get this confused. The Kaioken was pronounced the Kaioken, and that's where that started. There were some similar type changes in the Blue Water dubs of Dragon Ball, with things such as Hero in the Funimation dub of Dragon Ball, Shen in, of course, the original Japanese audio. The man that Kami takes the body of during the tournament is actually called Shen in the Blue Water dub of Dragon Ball as well, so people who grew up in the UK will remember him being called Shen, and his hilarious instance where Goku works out that Kami is actually inside this person when he puts together the fact that Shen won his match, and he's like, Shen won? Shenron! It's very cheesy and comically, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but apparently Goku figures it out from that. But this is one of the few changes that appear in the Blue Water dub, and it's actually more faithful to the Japanese script than the Funimation one is. And it's really interesting that changes in that could happen. I'm sure there are more out there, and I'll remember and find evidence of along the way, and when I do I'll make another video for those of you that are interested in the different dub colloquialisms that have set themselves apart. But just remember guys, when you're leaving a comment, please don't start bashing dubs because they're different and using different wordings. Dub changes are usually bad no matter what company is responsible for them. Most things should try and stick to the original source material as much as possible. Remember to leave a like, comment and subscribe for more and to start your training on World King Kanji's planet, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye!